gosh. Okay, do it. Do it.
3, 2, 1. All right, we're back now with Druid. I wanted to do Druid immediately before, like, the website's getting fixed, and by the next video, I think you'll see, like, in real time, the lifeforce.com getting fixed up. This is actually not the lifeforce.com, it's our test servers getting fixed up, but that's good news. But before we do that, in the realm of wonky scores, I wanted to do Druid first, because Druid has one of the most surprising cards in this entire expansion that we have not mentioned until now. But it is, and we're going to lower it just because. There's no reason for it. We've run out of reasons for it. I've checked this in the algorithm so many times. There's nothing the algorithm is doing wrong with it. This is just how good the card is. It's doing it's doing everything right. Okay? And this is how good this card is. Now, I don't know how many people think that this card is one of the most amazing cards ever. This is not going to be Pyros. We're not actually rating at 300. But the actual score of this card is a 159, which puts it above Swipe, puts it above Tortolian Forager, which was our Ungoro surprise, really amazing Druid card that we predicted and got right, I think. But above Wraith and above, like, other Druid cards that you may think were really good from this expansion, because let's face it, Druid has a lot of really good cards this expansion. And you may think, oh, Adwikta, you must be talking about Ultimate Infestation. And we will talk about Ultimate Infestation, and this card is not better than Ultimate Infestation, because that is the Ultimate Infestation, but it is still better than Swipe and Tortolian Forager and Bone Mare right now. We're going to lower the score, because Merps will kill me if we don't. But I'm with this score, because I trust the algorithm in this kind of things, and I, checked this a number of times with no error. Okay, so without further ado, the most surprising card valuation in all of KFT. It's Crypt Lord. 159. That's more than 5 points above Bone Mare. It has Taunt. It is 3 mana. It is a 1/6. If you thought Silverback Patriarch was a meme, this guy is a better meme. And it is actually really good because it has this ability that says after you summon a minion, gain +1 health. Which sounds like a really, really, really innocent, super innocent, so innocent kind of ability. But what this actually does is, so one thing the algorithm does really well is it plays out all the matchups, which you can do in your head too, and you'll see what I mean. But like, it does it automatically, so we don't have to keep doing this. It actually trades with like a decent number of 3-drops. Like, it trades with any 3/3, for example, and it eats like 2 3s, and it eats 2 2s, and it eats 3 2s, because they would have a 2-drop, you'd play it, they'd hit you once, then you would obviously play another card, and then you would survive and have a 1/1 on the board with Taunt, right? Like, it's not the best thing in the world, right? You don't want to be eating them, like, and only having 1 attack on the board, but it's still a thing, right? It doesn't, like, actually die to a 2-drop. So you may look at it and think, oh, it's just going to get eaten up by everything. But on curve, it doesn't. So on curve, it's not good, but it kind of gets the job done. Off curve, this is where this card shines, okay? Because off curve, think about the situation when you're playing this card, right? You play a Crypt Lord, you're not going to, like, end your turn. It's like turn, like, 8 or something. You're going to play at least 1 more card, right? Probably 2 more cards, because you know what the card does. So you're going to have a 1/7 or a 1/8 on the board to begin with. All right? Turn after that, you know who's not getting removed? A 1/7 or a 1/8 probably. It's probably going to stick around because it has a ridiculous amount of health. It don't get hit, right? But it's got plenty of health. And then what are you going to do next turn? With your 9 mana? With your 10 mana? You're going to play like 3 cards, maybe 4 cards. It'll grow again. So if you are fighting for the board, it will give your minions so much initiative by just blocking stuff and chipping damage of anything that hits in. If you're facing aggro, it will actually kill stuff. It's okay on curve, and if you're actually ahead on the board, you will never, ever, ever lose initiative on the board because this thing will just keep growing as you keep trading your other minions. Like, this thing will end up being like a 1/28, right? By like the end of the game. Your opponents will never get through it. It's probably not going to be a 1/28. If it were a 1/28, you would have played 22 minions. But you get the idea, right? It will get to the point where it is just not a feasible situation where you lose the board. or where you don't have initiative by putting things on the board. So that is why this is one of the best cards in the set and one of the best Druid cards in the game, and it should be a 159. And Merps is not going to let me have it. Merps let me have Pyros, but Merps is not going to let me have my Crypt Lord.
No, I didn't let you have Pyros. You just like boxed me out of that one. You completely boxed me out of that.
Pyros needed to happen. All right, I've been trying to get something to 300 for like the longest time, and it finally happened with Pyros because we reset it on 100 over 50, so that got us very close to 300, and we were able to do it. But okay, so Crypt Lord, I don't know where it's going to end up. This is one of the situations where Merps is just gonna move it down a certain number of points, and we're gonna be like, okay.
I told you I hate on cards, but it's also just like, wait, really? Like, I kind of need to hate on this a little bit.
All right, well, hate on it. We'll see how much you hate on it. I'm not gonna let it fall too low, though.
Think that's fair? Okay, so yes, that is the surprise card.
Mm-hmm. All right. So that's the surprise card. What's a not surprise card?
Not surprise card is Druid of the Swarm, which is a 2-drop, very welcome 2-drop that Druid has. 2 mana, 1/2. That says choose one, transform into a 1/2 with poisonous or a 1/5 with taunt.
That
this
one taunt, that 1/5 taunt doesn't grow. It's just not as cool.
Oh, so you mean it's not a better Crypt Lord?
It's not. It's worse than a Crypt Lord.
My gosh.
But it costs 1 less mana, though. You know, not everything can be a Crypt Lord.
Not everything can be a Crypt Lord. Not everything can be a Pyros. But right now, the score we have for Druid of the Swarm is a 145. This card is really good.
Yeah,
just insanely good. The fact that you choose between a snail or a super silverback patriarch, which I know sounds funny, but hey,
sometimes you need to taunt, right?
Sometimes you just need to taunt, and sometimes you need like a non-taunted snail. But choosing one that is appropriate to the situation is really freaking good.
Yep. Now, keep in mind, Stubborn Gastropod is still rated above this card because you'd rather have both a snail and a taunt. Like, the taunt is not actually a negative on a snail. I know some people are like, oh no, you don't want the snail to taunt. But you do want it to taunt sometimes, more often than you don't want it to taunt. And so it's only 2 points higher than this. Having the choice really helps, but you're really like, you're going to pick 1/5 in pretty desperate situations.
Yep.
All right. But like, here, the good part about Druid of the Swarm is that as a 2-drop, 1/5s are pretty good. Right? Like if you're facing up against a 2-drop or a 1-drop, and snails are pretty bad. So you do have an out there if this is your like 2-drop and your opponent's actually going aggro.
Yep.
The other card, which is 1 point lower, probably really the same score, like divided by decimals, is Webweave. 5 mana, summon 2 1/2 poisonous spiders. 2 is better than 1. 5 mana is worse than 2 mana times 2, but you only have to use 1 card. You don't have to use 2 cards.
Yeah.
And when you have 2 poisonous spiders, you know what's going to happen? His big thing's going to die. Like, if he plays a big thing and you play 2 spiders, he may have 1 removal, but he's probably not going to have 2 removals. And as a druid, what board clears do you have, right? You can swipe, so you would burn a swipe. That's pretty good, right? You trade this card for a swipe and a hero power, and so that you actually gain a mana, and that's like one of the worst case scenarios. Or like a Starfall, which is, you know, actually trading a card for a card. And those are like the worst case scenarios. The normal case scenario of facing up against a big drop is you win and you get still a spider.
Yeah, I think this is a card in which people look at it, they're like, 5 mana is a decent amount, you know, like I'm not getting a lot of stats on here, but man, it not only do you get 2 spiders, and like you said, at least one of the spiders is gonna kill something most of the time. It provides hard removal for Druid, right? Which has not had hard removal, and now even though you don't have initiative, poisonous minions are basically hard removal. So it just fills a void that Druid has had for a long time, and you get it in this you know, nice little double package with Webweave.
Yep. So this is like, by the way, all common and rare cards. So this is like 3 cards, I guess is my point, that are really good for Druid. That's like a large number. The last time a class did this, it was Paladin in Angora, and you kind of saw what happened with that. So just Druid's gonna be really good.
Right.
Mark my words for it. It's gonna be a weird kind of good, but it's gonna be really good. Especially when 2 of their best cards solve the problem that Druid has, right? Like Druid can't hard remove. Now you have 2 hard removals. They're weird hard removals. They don't always get the job done, but it's still better than like not having a shot at it, right? Which is where Druid usually is. Like Druid usually is like, oh, I'm gonna throw 3 cards into that.
Yeah. So have you talked about Strong Shell Scavenger?
No, I have not talked about Strong Shell Scavenger.
And for good reason. Strong Shell Scavenger is a 4-mana 2/3 rare card that says Battlecry, give your taunt minions +2/+2.
Yeah, it's next to an Amgam Rager. That's all you need to know.
It's quite unfortunate. You can definitely get some taunts, like, you know, Crypt Lord, right? Oh my gosh. The synergy. Crypt Lord into Strong Shell Scavenger. But yeah, this is kind of unfortunate.
Yeah. All right. Normal card. You get a removal as a Druid. It's a 3-mana bite. It's fine. It's rated 96. It's not that great, but it's fine. And what else is going to happen? Spreading Plague. This is decent. It's 118, so it's up there. It's doing things. It's decent card, and it's summon a 1/5 Scarab with Taunt. If your opponent has more minions, cast this again. So it's like Unleash the Hounds, but if you have a minion that you can't kill off, you're not going to get one more than that. So it's a little tricky to play, and you have a bunch of 1/5 taunts, which do a really good job of taunting, but don't do a lot else. But again, right, like even 1 damage softens up stuff.
Yeah, it definitely does. And this is kind of aggro's worst nightmare, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every single one of their minion has to deal with an adjacent 1/5 taunt. It's a card in which the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, you know what? There's definitely value to this.
It's just 5 mana.
Yeah.
Like, think of it as like an insanely good Mogushan for 5 mana. Right? Like,
I don't think anyone thinks
good Mogushan.
Of that. It's like, oh man, I could have such a good Mogushan right here. But yes, that's basically what it is. It's a very, very good Mogushan Warden.
All right. I was going to click Hunter, but I guess we're going to keep going. So remember, Druid already has 3 really, 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 really good common and neutrals. And then the Spreading Infestation was like also good. Not like amazing, but like also good. So now we're going to get to
Plagues.
Spreading Plague, yes. I'm combining cards. I'm like zombie stinging. Okay. So now we're going to have a even better card than all of these. This is like one of the best cards in the game. It is a 226. Not Pyros, but it's very good.
Oh my gosh, Pyro still. Anyways, you seem to like this card because, well, you also like Druid as the class. Tell us about Ultimate Infestation.
Ultimate Infestation is 10 mana, deal 5 damage, draw 5 cards, gain 5 armor, summon a 5/5 ghoul. That's 5 damage of tempo, dealing damage, 5 damage of 5 minions of tempo, so it's even for 10 mana. Not great way to spend 10 mana, but for 1 card it's okay. And then you also get 5 health and draw 5. If you drew no cards, it'd be an okay card.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't play it or draft it really, but like, if you ended up with it, you'd be like, all right, that's fine. If you drew 1 card, it would be a pretty good card. If you drew 2 cards, it would be a great card. If you drew 3 cards, it would be one of the best cards of the game. But you're drawing 5 cards. So...
Because why not? At that point, they're like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, right? Like, there's no other reason this is drawing 5 cards. They just needed to meme it.
Yeah.
If you go to 10 mana, before you were kind of afraid of Priest and Mind Control. Mind Control.
Oh my gosh, Mind Control?
What a silly, stupid small card.
Yeah.
So this is Ultimate Infestation. It does things. And finally in Epics, you want to talk about Fate Spinner?
Fate Spinner. So is the score correct here?
Yep, it is a 93.
Right. 93. It is a 5-mana 5/3. This is choose a Death Rattle secretly. So you're going to choose, your opponent cannot see. Basically, either deal 3 damage to all minions or give them, which means all minions, +2/+2. We talked about this previously on the podcast. The design is fantastic. Now, its application in the real game, it's about risk assessment, right? Risk analysis. You want to see whether you want to deal damage to everything or you want to give them +2/+2. And especially when there is not, if you're playing this on an empty board, right? You're like, well, do I prep the big sort of AoE or do I try to choose the second one and then they play stuff in, like maybe just one thing into it and that can buff everything?
I don't think this is actually a Mind Games card. I mean, it is. But what I think of it as is just an RNG card. Because at first, if you listen to older podcasts, when I first saw the card, I was like, oh, this is going to be really good. Because it's at the very least a 5 damage, 5/3, like, deal 3 damage removal kind of thing. And then you could potentially get, good stuff out of it. And then I looked at it more and more, and I started playing situations out with it. So sure, you get to choose which one it is, but then your opponent gets to choose the use case of this card more often than not. And so it's really not up to you. And it's also not up to your opponent. And so I think a lot of people think, well, if it's not up to me or my opponent, it's fair. Kind of. It's just RNG at that point, though. Like, what's not up to you and not up to your opponent? Bombers, right? Like, it's that kind of stuff. Only this is a death rattle. So it's not like you can set up the board to do this. It's like you set up a board and then your opponent gets to do stuff and then do this. Not that it matters, because it's just purely RNG. Because your opponent doesn't know which one you picked. You could be doing the thing that makes sense, or you could be trying to mind games him in order to do, like you do all sorts of stuff. But there's no... It's like rock, paper, scissors without, like, scissors. It's like you pick random things. I don't know. And the more I think about it, the more I was like, it could go up higher. It's really hard to tell without like using it a number of times and facing it a number of times. But I have a feeling it's one of those cards that's going to be better for bad players and worse for good players. Unlike what it seems, right? Like it seems like good players will mind games you, but I really think it's almost pure RNG. And so that's why it's penalized pretty heavily for that.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
And legendary, we have
Hedren Ox, which is a 9-mana 3/7 beast that says Death Rattle, summon your taunt minions that died this game. So, good synergy with the Lich King.
Oh, God. I don't even want to think about that.
You should not think about that. But
yeah, and you're going to have taunt minions, so it's not like it's not going to summon anything. And you're going to play your taunt minions first, and you're not going to be afraid of dying because they're taunt minions.
Yep. So right now we have the score at 93. You're definitely going to resummon some stuff, and if you're going to resummon anything, resummoning taunts is a good idea.
Yep.
But yeah.
So you kind of like half past your turn to play this. So the idea is you have summoned enough taunts that you're not in like danger of dying, and then you play this card, and then you do something to survive for a turn because it's probably not going to die in one turn. Like maybe play some taunts, and then you kill this guy and you win the game, right? So, is it a good card? No, it's a 93. That's below average. But for a below average card, it's okay. And if you have a lot of taunts, it's actually pretty good.
All right, that's Druid for you guys, and we will see how Crypt Lord turns out.
How many points do you want to penalize it?
I have no idea.
Well, you gotta like come up with an answer soon. We're publishing this thing like literally in like 4 or 5 hours.
20.
Can I say no?
I mean, you could say whatever.
20 points? Really?
I don't believe in this thing.
You don't believe in the power of the Crypt Lord?
No, I don't believe in... No.
You know what? I'm not against 20 points penalized. I'm okay with that. I mean, I believe in the guy, but like 20 points penalized is still like a Scenic Swampu's Druid of the Claw level, right? Like, it's still really good. It's fine.
Oh my gosh.
It's fine. Okay. That's it for Druid. We'll catch you on the flip side with Paladin, and you know, stick around. More analysis coming.
All right, sounds good.
Okay. The new improved tier list is